This is awesome. I know there's a few more people coming, and then we'll be arriving late. But for those of you that don't know me, and I think I know everybody in the room, but just so you know, I'm Dawn DeWolf. I'm the Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs.
She is Dawn DeWolf. No, not confirmation. And I'm Brian Kelly. I'm Vice President of College Services.
So we're hosting this today, and we really appreciate you coming out on a Friday afternoon, last day of the term, after how many weeks, 10 weeks of the term, before finals, on and on and on. This is really important work, so we're glad you're here, and glad you're here to provide some input. I think we're small enough, we should do introductions. Go around, just introduce yourself. You're going to have to speak into this and what you do. Do you want me to come back to you? Okay.
Hi, I'm Anna Gates Tapia. I'm the Dean of ESL.
I'm Holly Turpin. I'm Admin Coordinator in Cottage Grove.
I'm Matt Danskin, and I'm in IT.
I'm Craig Taylor from IRAP.
I'm Rosa Lopez. I'm the Career Pathways Coordinator.
Jennifer Hayward, Associate Facilities Director.
John Bauman, Health Clinic.
Russ Pearson from Florence Center. Hello, world.
Tracy Sims, Marketing and Public Relations.
Great. And who's streaming is Elise Stone, and there could be others. I want to take a second to acknowledge our wonderful crew back there, Randy, Dean, Ray, and Alex. Extraordinarily, helpful in setting up this room, because it wasn't set up, and they've done a great job, and it's important to make sure that this is streaming out. So why are you here today? We're here to talk about core themes. And what are core themes? Well, first of all, the outcome of what we're going to be doing today is increase your familiarity and understanding of the college's 4 core themes and generate ideas about how work can and will connect to the core themes at your level as well as at your department level. So I'm thrilled we have a really broad base of departments here and functions within the college. Did you two introduce yourselves?
I'm Deborah Butler, and I work for Brian Kelly in College Services.
I'm Jennifer Steele, and I work in Planning and Budget.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to ignore you two. So let me kind of set the context around what core themes are and why they're important, because they're very, very important to us. Our core themes are required by our accrediting body, the Northwest Commission, Colleges and Universities. And they were implemented 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago. And as you may or may not know, we have a cycle of accreditation visits. There's one every 7 years. Well, we just finished 1 year, then there's what's called mid-cycle, which is 3 years, and then there's one every 7 years, and then we start over again. So the core themes that we had previously, that we reported on our 7-year cycle, which would have been last fall, were academic transfer, career, technical and workforce development, foundation skills, and lifelong learning. Those were the 4 that we had previously. We kind of imposed those on the top of our strategic directions, our core values, because we were required to. And it didn't work very well for us. Those of us that worked with those certainly felt that they clearly explained the populations that we serve, but they weren't as meaningful to describe the full breadth and depth of what the college does. And we felt we were missing quite a bit, because core themes are basically the way the accreditation standard reads. Our core themes tell us how well we're fulfilling our mission. How well we're fulfilling our mission. Who knows our mission besides Craig Taylor? Oh, Craig, you can say. Who? Jennifer, what is it? Lane? There it is. Lane is the community's college. We provide comprehensive, accessible, quality, learning-centered educational opportunities that promote student success. Our mission tells the community, the larger community, who we are and why we're unique. And so it's very, very important to us. Core themes help us understand, are we fulfilling our mission? So what we did is, after our 7-year cycle, we decided that our core themes of academic transfer, career technical, and workforce development, foundation skills, and lifelong learning weren't helping us. So we spent several months designing new ones. And you have them, the new ones, on your table. Responsive community engagement, accessible and equitable learning opportunities, quality educational environment, and individual student achievement. We like these quite a bit, and I want to thank those of you in the room who helped develop these, because it was a hard, long process, but we got to, I think, very good core themes that we feel most across the campus can identify with. But that's how you're going to help us in this work. So let me just tell you how this works in terms of construct. So we have Lane's mission, and then each core theme individually manifest and collectively describe how we're fulfilling our mission. So core theme 1, core theme 2, core theme 3, core theme 4, each are unique. There's objectives, so really the goals, and then get finite into the indicators. And the indicators then give us the data that say this core theme of responsive community engagement under these objectives, and you'll see them on your table there, have these data pieces. It isn't everything that we think is important under that core theme. A committee called the Institutional Effectiveness Committee spent hours and hours and hours trying to identify what we called kind of the spotted owl. What would be the key indicators that we felt would tell us, not completely tell us, but at least shine a light on maybe we have a problem in one area, or maybe we're doing really well in another area. So these indicators, and even the objectives to a certain point, can continue to change, but the core themes at the highest level are what we're saying collectively. All of these tell us that we're fulfilling our mission. So can you see within our mission our core themes? Responsive community engagement. Lane is the community's college. We provide comprehensive, accessible, quality, learning-centered educational opportunities. So accessible and equitable learning opportunities. You see that in there? Quality educational environment. And finally, individual student achievement. See how that aligns? And collectively, this information will have indicators that will be supported by verifiable data, both qualitative and quantitative, that will help us determine, are we fulfilling our mission? And if not, where aren't we fulfilling our mission? And let's dig deeper into that. Yes, John?
Is there previous data that is available to look at to massage into this?
Yes, great question. Thank you. The question was, is there previous data that we can help us look at this data? Yes, we will be using, and actually we'll be working on a crosswalk from our last year's accreditation, of which we had multiple indicators that will align with these. So yes, we'll have a substantial amount of data that will help us. There's some where we're going to have to get creative, and I think Craig calls it the beautiful data, right? Isn't that what you call it, Craig? That's what C calls it, is the data that we don't have or that's going to be harder to get because it's going to require maybe focus groups or student surveys or something. But I so appreciate the work of the Institutional Effectiveness Committee because they were really willing to look at different ways of collecting data other than just measurable stuff in Banner. So that's the context. That's where we are right now. We really are starting a new cycle. It's very exciting. We submitted and recently ratified these core themes. The Institutional Effectiveness Committee, the board has approved them. So the core themes is what we're going to be working with. And there will be some, I want to talk a little bit about strategic planning, because how does core themes then align with strategic planning? So we may find that, and we'll find, I think, that these core themes will be somehow tied to our bigger strategic plan. And but it isn't all of our strategic plan. It will be some part of our strategic plan. Strategic planning also is futuristic in the sense of looking forward, 5 or 6, 10 years. So our strategic plan will include these core themes, but then much more. The other thing that's important is that NUQ, or our commission, or our accrediting commission, really wants and expects that one of the core themes, and it's core theme 4, is about evaluating student achievement, student outcomes. So individual student achievement is also important that we have grounded in our core themes, because they'll be looking for that. So that's how that all ties together. It's really important work. We're launching it by, this is the second of 2 meetings that we've had to kind of ground the community, or the campus community, and the familiarity of them, and then there'll be much more rolled out around core themes winter and spring term. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
Thanks, Dawn. Show of hands of, I know we have several folks in here who participated in the Institutional Effectiveness Committee. Can you raise your hands and be recognized? Thank you. An amazing amount of work went into actually developing these core themes. We worked over the summer. We had many long days, 4-hour days, 6-hour days of really looking into this and trying to find a set of core themes that aligned better to telling our story and telling what we did and how we support the mission. So a lot of good work has gone into it to this point, and now what the Institutional Effectiveness Committee really has to do is to push these out and make the campus aware, and part of having these meetings, part of talking about these for the rest of the academic year, including people and through the video stream, is to really get us familiar with these. In the rest of the day, we're going to be looking at these core themes individually, and we'll have some time at our tables to talk a little bit about core themes and answer a few questions with the group. We've got some small groups today, so we'll be able to do a little bit of back and forth. Harder to do when we have 6 or 7 groups, but with a couple of groups, that should be good. What I'd like to do is actually to set the tone for our conversation coming up is show a little video. And some of you might know, if you have children or grandchildren, there are a lot of books coming out, and they're books without words. They're books that are just images, and they kind of tell a story through a series of images. This particular video is called Zoom, and it's based on a book called Zoom, and we'll take a look, and we'll capture some comments afterward.
You're actually in the middle of the workshop right now, sleeping. This is your first lesson in training.
there's a definite relationship to what we saw in the video and our ability to really kind of zoom not only in, but zoom out from our mission. And what Dawn didn't add to this, but is the next step of our work coming up, is what helps support the core themes. So what do we have in our toolkit that helps support the core themes? Our strategic directions and our next work, really, and work that will continue on this year, will be mapping the existing strategic directions and potential changes and additions to those to these core themes. But for today, we're really going to focus on core themes, but that's a little bit of that zoom in and that zoom out, is the ability to think that all of these are very interrelated and they have to support each other. And if you zoom in, you're really looking at the same picture. So the same picture that includes our strategic directions and our core themes will, somewhere in there, will always be the mission embedded within that photograph. What we're going to do next is start to look at core themes, and it'd be great if we could be 2 tables. Sounds like the perfect amount for this size. And I want us to look at the first core theme, responsive community engagement, and we're going to answer a series of questions. Thank you. And the questions, no, you're fine where you are, just as long as we stay in 2 groups. And what the questions I'd like you to think about are the following, and they're up on the board. When you read the words on the handout, what do they mean to you? If the college were doing this really, really well, what would it look like? When you think of the work you do in your department area of the college, how does it connect to the core theme? And in what ways does your individual work connect to this core theme? So everyone is going to come to the core theme in a different direction, from a different direction. Folks who work in IT are going to have a different relationship to this core theme than folks who work for facilities in the science department or for KLCC radio station. So we're all going to approach this a little bit differently. Let's take 20 minutes and do that work at your table with those questions, and we'll have, at the end of 20 minutes, we'll do a brief little report out on how you feel. For those of you joining us on the video, if you want to rejoin us in 20 minutes, we'll be reporting out, and then you won't just be watching us work at our tables. The level of detail that is embedded within the indicators is something we won't tackle today, and something that the IEC is still working on. And these are about 90% good, but there's still some room there. But for the purpose of today's conversation, let's really focus on the core theme itself and the objectives. So before we transition to core theme 2, I was just going to capture a few of the thoughts to share with the folks watching on video. Using Lane as a hub, using active listening, encompassing all of Lane County and beyond, really focusing on our community, making sure that our indicators are Eugene-centric. Currently getting feedback from employers is difficult. If we are doing objective 1, indicators well, individual student achievement will increase. Advisory committee infrastructure works could be strengthened. They need meaning, they need purpose, they need outcomes, and they need a feedback loop. So good comments on responsive community engagement. And at this point, I'm going to let Rosa Lopez guide us through core theme number 2, accessible and equitable learning opportunities.
So I'm going to be working on, we're going to start core theme 2. We're going to be doing the same thing we just did with core theme 1. I'm going to read it, and then we're going to discuss the same 4 questions that we discussed earlier. So core theme 2 is accessible and equitable learning opportunities. Lane's policies, procedures, programs, and services facilitate open, fair, and just educational experiences. So at this point, I think what we'll be doing is we're looking at the same question. So what is it, what would this look like if you were doing this, if we were doing this well at Lane? What does this mean? What is it? Can you change it to the next slide? In what ways does your individual work connect with this core theme? And when you think of your work of your department, how does it connect to the core theme? So the same questions, and we're going to go through the same process. And after some time, we'll also be asking you to put post-it notes. So one of them is that people and students know they are welcome here, welcome everywhere at Lane. Another comment is to keep this theme in mind with all other planning, etc., because it is so central to what we do. And there are several comments that actually talk about add focus on accessibility to getting students to Lane, not just people already at Lane. And there's about 3 comments that suggest that, and 2 that talk about the demographics of staff need to be more closely match the community. So really great comments. And now we'll be moving to Dawn, who will be talking about Core Theme 3.
Thank you, Rosa, very much. So this time we're going to shake things up a little bit and change out tables so that you're not talking to the same group. So either you folks move over here, or some of you move over there, please. So we got a different conversation since you all have become buddies now. Notice none of us are leaving the table. Okay. Yeah. Well, it'd be nice to have either you or Russ on each table because we've got 2 outreach. Yeah, stay here, Holly, if you don't mind. Come on over. Okay, this next core theme, quality educational environment, reads, Lane's quality educational environment embraces academic and instructional integrity, relevancy, rigor, innovation, and transparency. And this is not just the credit, this is including non-credit. And actually, environment can be more than just the classroom. So think broadly, think about tutoring centers, think about athletics, think about our student clubs, because all of those are learning environments for our students. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. We'll take about 20 minutes to go through the questions again. The same questions. When you read the words on the handout, what do they mean to you? Is the college, if the college was doing this really, really well, what would that look like? How does it connect to you and your department work? So it is approximately 2 o'clock. So in about 20 minutes, we'll wrap this one up. Okay, thank you. So you still may be working on it, so please feel free to finish it up and put it up here when you're done. But I'm going to go ahead and move us along and just read a few of these. Non-instructional departments can help by providing high-quality student jobs, which is a high-impact practice. Consider the educational infrastructure. Couple on those. Meaningful student employment on campus. Need to continually evaluate instruction, resources, technology, etc., to ensure innovation and quality. Good students come from Lane to other schools or employment. Do we assess how students develop as they move through? All great comments. This is one that, as all of them are, I guess, is very important. So I'm glad there's some good comments up there and good themes. And so with this, Brian, I think you have the last one on student achievement.
All right, core theme number 4, individual student achievement. Lane students advance on their academic paths and reach their educational goals. I'm going to take a very similar path with this last core theme. Go ahead and take a look at it. We're going to focus on the same few questions. We'll report out, and after we finish with this last core theme, we'll take about 20 minutes on this one. We'll have a debrief of the entire process. So take 20 minutes, core theme 4. Some of the feedback from individual student achievement: ensure system support, knowing our students, helping students understand where they are on their journey. More progression and completion could equal more state funding in the future. Understanding student goals become vital to measuring this goal. Is the goal a degree, certificate, as a set of specific skills? Very difficult to truly identify student goals. Students need career development. What about students seeking non-degree goals? What about College Now and ECHO? How are they reflected in this core theme? And need to evaluate what the systems are in place to help students achieve their goals. So some good feedback on that. One thing I did want to talk about in terms of what the IEC ratified, and even though I pleaded with you in the beginning of this session not to dive into the indicators, it's hard not to, you know, and and so we all broke that, and it's good to look at those. But what the IEC actually ratified were the core themes and the objectives. And the feedback that we're gathering for the indicators is actually very helpful, because those will change, and those will also change through the path of these core themes. So when we look at indicators and we realize in order to achieve our core theme and the objective that those represent, this indicator isn't quite giving us the information we want, mid-cycle we might reevaluate those and add another indicator. So these are conversations that aren't only good on the front end of this process, but conversations that we'll need to have throughout the process. Any takeaways from today? Anything someone wants to share? Some ideas about where we're going next?
Well, the more time that I spend looking at the core themes and having conversations around them, the more I see the interdependence and flow.
And you're talking about with the 4 core themes themselves and how they kind of build.
And the objectives, like, oh,
yes. Yeah, and we talked about that at the other table also. Did I see another hand? Oh, thanks, Tracy.
What the heck? I know you mentioned something about how this will flow out over the rest of the course of the year, and we've been told that, you know, accreditation is something that we're going to be talking about all the time. That, you know, there isn't an end to it. It's like the Golden Gate Bridge. You're always working on it. And I could imagine, and unless you're really involved with this, you don't realize how important it really is to our day-to-day work. And at least our table didn't really spend a whole lot of time talking about what this means to your work. We kind of stayed on some of the other questions. So I was just thinking with regards to spring in service or fall in service, whenever these things come up, maybe one way to help connect with the majority of people who will not participate in this way and help them connect is to find some advocates from different areas of the campus that aren't quite so obvious, as well as, you know, faculty and whatnot, and have a groundskeeper be really articulate and passionate about how he's so proud of his work that connects with this in this way, and that way it's staff talking to staff in their own words with their own passion, and oh, I get it. You know, I mean, that just might be one way to help people connect to the work.
And at the timing of today might have been unfortunate with the last day of term and finals week upon us, but at the last session we had about 45 people, including some folks from grounds and facilities who were asking the same difficult questions. How does this relate to my work? What can I do? And so on that theme, any ideas on how to move this out? I like the in-service and spring conference idea. I like the idea of offering a free lunch to people to get them in, but we might need better ideas. Any ideas on how we can really move this out to campus?
It's something that Tracy mentioned, that we call it often the work of accreditation, but it's really the work of the college. This is what we do. This is what we tell our community and our students. This is what we do. So it's more about our work than about accreditation. There's just some people have to do all the reporting, and yeah. Does that make sense?
Thanks, Craig, for that point, because if you remember what I said at the initial, when we started, was that the core themes define and verify how we fulfill our mission. And that really is more important than the fact that we're reporting to an accrediting body. Because I think it clearly describes to our students, to our community, to our board, that we are fulfilling our mission. Or if we're not, we will work on it. We will be able to identify it and say, okay, we want to develop a plan, a strategy that would address this particular item because it's important to us. It's in the center of our mission. So I think that's a really good point. Let's see, I think Rosa was next, and then it'll come back over here.
So do we still do unit planning, or did that change to something else? Okay. So I would actually say, why not in the process of unit planning, put these core themes as part of our unit planning process and have people actually ask managers, not to do unit planning independently, but actually bring it to many do, but sometimes I'm sure many don't as well, to bring it to the entire department and say, okay, in what ways are we working towards these core themes, and then have that be part of the unit planning application process. That's what I would suggest.
I was just thinking probably all of us find this incredibly engaging, but a lot of people's eyes would glaze over when they're kind of reading through this document. And Lane does a good job sometimes of making cute, fun videos that explain a topic or push an idea, like the no smoking campus, and videos like that. And maybe if the college made a fun video that explained this and explained ways that different people at the college are engaged, and then inspired people to talk about it, like we could show it at a facilities department meeting, I think that would be a lot more engaging than just asking people to read this and then talk about it.
That is an excellent idea.
Well, in response to, we now do the 5-year program review cycle, or we're moving towards that, and then an annual department self-evaluation, and the core themes are built in to that self-evaluation package. I'm wondering if, based on the quality of the conversations that we've had these past 2 forums, I'm wondering if connecting with maybe an informational video and then asking managers if could this format work at a department meeting to this process, because it seemed to work in this format. So I think that those kinds of conversations might be able to happen in department meetings.
I was just going to say that was one of what my plan was originally before I came today. At our last department meeting, we looked at the mission and how do each individual person in the room in our department meeting, which is small, it's Cottage Grove, we don't have a lot of people, but so there was 5 of us, and we looked at where we fit in the mission, and my plan was just to, at each meeting in the next 4 months, to go over one core theme at a time.
So those are some excellent suggestions. Our next steps are to continue to work on the indicators. We'll bring the ratified core themes and objectives to College Council. and we will start mapping the new core themes to the existing strategic directions, and past the first of the year, we'll start to work as a college in reevaluating, reassessing our current strategic directions to see if they align. Because you'll remember what Dawn drew. Now our next step is to take strategic directions and add those under core themes and see if they're actually, if the strategic directions are actually supporting these core themes. And the work of the Institutional Effectiveness Committee will be to do some mapping of the current strategic directions and see how close they match or don't match. So it's a big project, but it's a great group. I want to thank the Institutional Effectiveness Committee for being an amazing group this year, doing some really powerful work, and we have some big expectations for them moving forward, so we'll continue to do work. And I want to thank everybody for being here this afternoon and participating in the conversation. Thank Dean and Randy and their team for the video stream, and thank everyone who took a part of their Friday to join us on the video. Tracy has another.
What do you anticipate the timeline is for completing the strategic directions and then being able to update our college-wide vision, mission, core value posters?
So as of now, we're looking at completing that by the end of the academic year. So if we were going to transfer that new information into the messaging, that could be a summer project and ready for fall. Best case scenario. Good question. Tracy's question was about transitioning the vision, mission, strategic value poster and completing that work, which would be June 30th would be a great goal. Yes. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.